𝗦𝗫𝐶𝗵𝗲𝗀 श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरोन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललितान् श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नामिने गौरतुषे नमः। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। मुखं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणम्। So welcome you all once again. Very happy to be with you in this course. Today is 𝐜𝐴𝐳𝐷𝐶, so wish you all a very happy 𝐜𝐴𝐴𝐷𝐶. The best way to celebrate 𝐜𝐴𝐴𝐷𝐶 is to spend time hearing about Lord Krishna, discussing about Lord Krishna, or be engaged in spiritual activities. So in the session we had last week, we gave you an introduction about how the book came up, some stories from Mahabharata, and some initial lessons on the need of a guide, also known as Guru, in one's spiritual life. As I said last time, the course will have 12 sessions, and out of that, 10 sessions will be dedicated to each of the chapters of the book. So in this session today, we are going to look at the first chapter of the book. So you can follow a protocol that maybe before the session you can read through the chapter which we are going to discuss, or after the session you can go through the chapter as you like. The first chapter and all the other chapters, they begin with a story. Either the story has been taken from Ramayana or from Mahabharata or from Srimad Bhagavatam or from Caitanya Caritamrita. These are the four sources. So the story which we would like to discuss today and then take lessons from that is the story from the life of Lord Ramachandra. I am sure you must have seen or read Ramayana once, full Ramayana, maybe in television you saw it or saw some movie on it, or read the book on Ramayana, maybe an abridged version. So you are aware of the story of Ramayana. Ramayana is very interesting. 𝗦𝗫𝐶𝐿 Ramayana, it has 6 kands or divisions, and there is a 7th one also, but that 7th one is not so popular. So there are 6 kands or division, and the first one is called Balakand. Balakand means, however, it doesn't talk so much about Lord Ram's childhood pastime, still it is called Balakand, because in that the guru of Lord Ramachandra, whose name is Vishvamitra Muni, he, to cut it short, he enjoys the relationship with the Supreme Lord, where the Supreme Lord has accepted discipleship of under him, and the relationship between a guru and a disciple is almost like the relationship between a parent and a child. It's the same mood. The vatsalya bhav is there, the mood of vatsalya. So here the spiritual master of Lord Ramachandra enjoys that relationship with Lord Ramachandra, where Lord Ramachandra acts like a balaha, like a disciple unto him. That's why that section is called Balakand. So how it goes is this, the story, if you have read, very nice, if not, then in brief synopsis, that in Ayodhya, where Maharaj Dashrath was ruling as the king, people were not so happy. Why? Because the king was not happy. And why is the king not happy? He had so many queens. In total, how many? 353 queens he had, of which 3 were the most prominent ones, 𝐜𝐨𝐳𝐤, Sumanta and 𝐜𝐨𝐧𝐭𝐞. And he had got no male child from any one of them, right? He had a daughter whose name was Shanta, but he did not have a male child. And that's why he was in a lot of anxiety that who will continue the dynasty? And because he was not happy, his citizens were also not happy. In fact, the citizens related so much with the distress of the king and the queens that the citizens, they never held any kind of celebration in Ayodhya. No festivals, no celebrations, nothing. So they all contributed, actually, you can say, to the sadness that spread around the city. However, we will not get into detail. It so happened that Dashrath performed a yajna, and through that yajna, Putra Kamishti yajna, he begot 4 sons actually. He did not beget them. Those sons appeared in the wombs of these ladies. Divinely they came. And then these 4 children were born. Ram, Bharata, Lakshmana and Shatrughna. Right? And when they were born, then the festivities began in Ayodhya. People started celebrating, and Ayodhya became a very happy place. And that was the mood every day. Dashrath was happy, the queens were happy, everyone was happy. So one day, while Dashrath was sitting in his court, he got the news. A messenger came and told, the great sage Vishvamitra has come. Now, you know, if you study the Puranas, some sages are really, really known for having a bad temper. And anyone hears their name, they get a little scared, when this person has come. And if I don't treat this person well, then this person is going to drop some curses upon me. So some sages are known for that. Like some of the names are Durvasa Muni is one of them. Second is Vishvamitra. So they are known for having a bad temper. So when Vishvamitra's name was announced, Dashrath immediately jumped off his seat that I should not delay in receiving and welcoming this guest of mine, lest he will curse us. So he personally went to receive the great sage at the door, welcomed him, like what should be done, when a guest comes. What to speak of when a sadhu comes, then one should give proper welcome. So Dashrath was thinking, I am a king and I am a Kshatriya. Vishvamitra now has become a Brahmana because of all his austerities, and he is a sage. So I should be respecting him even from social custom point of view, right? And spiritually also he is very, very advanced. So he welcomed him, bathed his foot, made him sit on an elevated asana, and then gave him all, nice food, made him feel comfortable. And then he asked, what can I do for you, sir? Why have you come? You must be having some purpose of visiting my house or my palace. So let me know, my kingdom. So that time Vishvamitra told Dashrath that I have come to take your son Ram with me. I want to take Ram. And Dashrath asked why? Because there are some demons living in the forest. They disturb us. And I want Ram to kill them. Now this was not a very happy, news for Dashrath. Not something which he welcomed at all, because he was very attached to Ram, and he said that my Ram is still a boy, a child, and he has never fought. He doesn't have any experience. and you're talking about fighting with these powerful demons. I mean, great fighters cannot stand against them in battle, and you are talking of taking Ram with you. I'm not sure if that's going to happen. Better you take me. I'll come. Not only I will come, my whole army will come. Thousands of soldiers will go, and we will kill all the demons. Don't worry. So at that time, Vishvamitra said, "No, I don't want you. I want Ram. I did not come here to, get good counseling from you, what I should be doing, right? I have come here to receive Ram, take Ram, and you promised that you will do whatever I ask you to do. So now you do. Why are you trying to cheat me now? Going back on your words." At that time, Dashrath was perplexed. He knew what he should be doing as a matter of duty, but his attachment to Lord Ram, who's his son, didn't allow him to agree. So that time he looked at Vasishtha Muni for direction, indication, what I should be doing. And Vasishtha signaled to Dashrath that don't worry, Vishvamitra has come here not to put Ram in some kind of trouble, but actually he has come here to benefit Lord Ram. He will take Ram with him and he will give lot to Ram. He will teach Ram many, many things. And Vasishtha even indicated that actually Vishvamitra is himself very qualified to kill all these demons. He doesn't even need your help. What to speak of taking help of Ram? He's just taking Ram, keeping that as an excuse to teach Ram many, many things which will be helpful to him in the future. So you should allow. And Dashrath allowed. Okay, take. Then he said, but you don't take him alone. You take Lakshman also with him. Better to go, right? And at that time, they both leave with Vishvamitra. And the journey is explained in Ramayana, very interesting actually, how when they march towards the ashram, on the way they meet ferocious demons. They meet this demoness called 𝗳𝗏𝐴𝐴, and Lord Ram kills her, 𝗳𝗏𝐴𝐴. And then later on, Lord Ram also kills many other demons like 𝗦𝘁liche and so many. So there's a very long description actually. Vishvamitra would tell them different stories every day. They would sleep under the tree, bathe in the river, serve the spiritual master, and then collect food and bring to him. And every day he would tell them different stories. And he would teach them mantras also, how to shoot arrows, stuff like that. So it goes on like that. They get complete training under Vishvamitra. And then one day Vishvamitra tells them, today I want to take you to a new journey. You will visit a new place. Lord Ram says, which place is that? So he says, don't worry, just come with me. And he takes them to Mithila, the place of Mother Sita. And when they reach there, they realize a Swayamvar has been arranged for the princess called Sita. Whoever will be able to lift the bow, tie the string to it, will be given the hand of the princess in marriage. King Janak had made this condition. Why King Janak made this condition? There's an interesting past behind that. That when this girl Sita was a mere child, once it so happened that while playing with some, I think there was she was not playing. She wanted to pluck flowers from a tree, and her hand was not reaching the height of the flowers. So this girl, she rushed into the treasure house of the king Janaka, and there she found a big bow, a huge bow. So this baby girl, just maybe 5-6 year old tiny girl, she lifted that bow with her left hand, and she brought it out, and then she used that bow to tuck the flower which was there on the tree, And when the soldiers of the army of King Janaka saw this, they actually fell unconscious. You know why? Because 300 men and a dozen of elephants would be required to move this bow little bit. And this girl, she's lifting it with left hand and then using it to tuck flowers from the tree to drop them. So they came running and told the king, we saw something very interesting today. And the king said, what? You say, your daughter was doing all these things. So King Janaka could not believe. He said, not possible. I mean, how is it possible? She is such a tiny girl and you are saying she is doing that things. So they said, you don't believe us? We will show you. So they took the king and the king saw, yes, this girl is able to play with this bow like anything. So then he thought, if she can lift it up, at least her husband should also be similarly qualified, Otherwise, how can I give my daughter to someone who is less stronger than her? Sometimes some acharyas comment, if the husband would not be strong enough and Sita jokingly, punches the husband, what would happen to the husband? He would die at that place, So that's why the king thought the husband should be equally qualified. So he made this condition that whoever is able to lift the bow and place the thread on it, string it, I'll marry Sita to that man. But no one was able to do that. And they were all watching this tournament. So at that time, King Janaka stood up and said, are there no more Kshatriyas existing on this planet? Where are they gone? No one is able to string this bow. There's no Kshatriya left. So even Lord Ram was present there. Lakshman was present there. They did not, respond to that call. They are the best of the Kshatriyas. So it is said that they were waiting. It means Lord Ram was waiting. He was waiting for a signal from Vishvamitra. So then Vishvamitra then told Ram, you can try. Go ahead. So that time Lord Ram got up. He again seeked blessings of Vishvamitra and then moved forward to lift the bow, string it. While stringing it, he actually broke it, right? And then later on, Sita got married to Lord Ramachandra. So in this way, if you read that whole episode in Ramayana, we will come to see, we'll learn from that episode that Lord Ramachandra acted as a disciple to his guru Vishvamitra. Not only that you see, you also see in other places that he acted as a disciple to another guru of his who's known as 𝗲𝗏cie. 𝗲𝗏cie was Kul Guru, means family guru kind of thing, guiding him in his duties as a king. 𝗲𝗏cie was guiding Dasaratha, 𝗲𝗏cie was guiding Ram also. And Vishvamitra happened to become his guru in many other different manners, teaching him weaponry, teaching him Puranas, ethics, even religion or religious principles. So the lessons that we can learn from this episode is, though the Supreme Lord is all-knowing, he is full of knowledge, he is omniscient, he chooses to accept some person as his guru. Why? And he does that in all the incarnations he takes, right? Whether he comes as Krishna, whether he comes as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, whether he comes in different other forms like Vyasadeva, he accepts Guru in all the incarnations because he wants to teach people that you also have to do the same thing. You also have to learn. He doesn't have a need, but still he does, right? So in order to teach people that you also need to accept someone as your spiritual master, a qualified person. And then how do you relate with that spiritual master? That is beautifully shown by Lord Ramachandra from his dealings with Vishvamitra. If we read Ramayana, we'll be able to closely observe those principles. So just taking some points from that, as is also mentioned in the book, that Lord Ramachandra is omniscient, yet he is inquiring submissively from his spiritual master. He already knows the answers and still is asking questions. In fact, he knows the answers better than Vishvamitra. So when he would ask questions, sometimes Vishvamitra would smile, thinking that you already know, why are you asking me? Because Vishvamitra knew that Lord Rama is Bhagavan. He already knew that. And he knew I am just playing the role of a guru, guide. So Lord Ramachandra would ask questions. Can you tell me this story? Who was this person? What happened to that person? Why this lady turned into a stone? You know the story of Ahilya becoming stone. So he knew everything, but he would still ask submissively, inquire. First thing. Second thing, though he is the supreme order giver, his command is being, sought by all the great demigods, Brahmaji, Lord Shiva, Indra, Chandra, Surya, Yamaraj. They are all waiting to receive his instructions and orders. Here we see that personality is waiting for the command of his guru. He did not stand up to go ahead to lift the bow, string it, without getting the command of his spiritual master that go ahead, Ram, you can do it. He waited for that order. He was patient. He was waiting very eagerly that only if it is told to me, then I shall do. Otherwise, I won't. And the last thing, though he is the Supreme Master, yet he is very eager to serve in a humble manner. Carrying out every single instruction of the spiritual master in a very, very humble manner. So in this way, Lord Ramachandra is teaching three essential things. What is that? One should inquire, one should be eager to serve, and one should also wait for instructions or commands. Right? These three things, they define surrender, basically. These three things, they define surrender. This word surrender is something we commonly come across, and all the religions talk about it. It's not just that only Krishna consciousness talks about surrender. If you see Abrahamic religions, they also talk about surrender. If you see Sikhism, it also talks about surrender. If you take any guru or teacher, they may also talk about surrender, right? So this is a principle which is commonly seen in all religions, in all spiritual practices. So what does now surrender mean? When you hear the word surrender, tell us some different words that come to your mind. As soon as you hear the word surrender, what all comes to your mind? You can put in the chat box, or you can even unmute yourself and speak. Aruna Mataji.
Surrender means to give in.
To give in. Okay. Annapurna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. From the word surrender, I understand it is one being devoid of one's own likes and dislikes.
Okay, free from likes and dislikes.
And
okay. Pankaj Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Being an instrument in the hands of the Guru. Whatever Guru wants.
Okay. Yes. Being an instrument. Hare Krishna. Vijay Narayan.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. So following the orders of the Guru without any excuses.
Without any excuses. Good. Following the orders without any excuses. So what other, if I say just one word which comes to your mind, which can replace the word surrender? Someone said dedication. Neha Mataji.
Sharanagati, Prabhuji.
Oh, that's Sanskrit form of surrender, right? So can you say another word in English only? Sharanagati, Sanskrit form of surrender. Yeah, Riti Mataji.
To take shelter.
Okay, fine. Taking shelter or accepting shelter, right? Ashray in Sanskrit is called ashray. Someone said seva. All right, so the word surrender, some of you, one of you mentioned dedication. Correct. So the word surrender can actually, the other words that can be called similar to surrender or close to surrender are, one is devotion itself. The word bhakti itself means surrender. Right? There cannot be bhakti without surrender, actually. Bhakti means surrender. Then, as Riddhi Mataji said, ashray or taking shelter is also another form of surrender, right? Dedication can also be surrender, 100% dedication, devotion, loyalty, right? Commitment, sacrifice. Good word for surrender. right? Obedience is also another word for surrender, correct? How can one be surrendered without being obedient? Obedience means surrender. So these are some of the words. Now, though the word surrender has these positive, synonyms, but sometimes people in this world, due to wrong kind of experience or bad experiences, take a negative meaning of the word surrender. To them, surrender may mean something which is done, forcefully, not voluntarily. It is like, it is some kind of pressure is being applied on me and then I do, right? I don't do it voluntarily. Like, for example, let's say there are some robbers who enter a bank and they have, guns in their hand, and then they call the people out there, they tell them, you all surrender, otherwise we'll shoot you. Surrender your money, surrender your belongings, right? So you give everything to us, otherwise we'll kill you. So then if you look in that manner, then surrender takes a negative connotation, where the word surrender then leads to the idea of exploitation, abuse, controlling, manipulating, isn't it? So what happens is, because we have lived in this material world, not just for this one life, we have lived in this material world for many lives, and we have gone through lots of different kinds of experiences, positive as well as negative. The word surrender doesn't always inspire us. Rather, many a times, it creates some kind of fear or some kind of insecurity inside. One begins to question, well, why should I surrender? First. Second, the place where I will surrender, I'm being asked to surrender, will I be, given care there, or will I be used? And that will happen because, we have those experiences from our past. Maybe not in this life, but coming from past lives. So, for a living entity in the material world, surrendering to God is not always an easy thing. Why? Our own bad experience in the past will try to block us, will try to stop us, will try to give us reasons that don't do it. Don't do it. Because if you do it, then you may not have a good experience. You may have a very bad experience. And because of those blockages which are there inside us, we generally don't welcome this idea so much. We may theoretically accept it, but we don't want to practically apply it. We may not want to practically apply it because we have this feeling, that maybe this won't be the best thing for me. Maybe my experience won't be so good because we have had bad experiences in the past, right? So the right kind of surrender, what actually it means is, or what it should mean is something like this. His Holiness Bhakti Tirth Maharaj says, in spiritual sense, it means to place oneself under the care of a dominant loving energy of someone who has genuine concern and love for us. It is like a child placing himself or herself in the arms of a loving mother or father. Right? Just like Riti Mataji said, it's like taking shelter. But taking shelter of whom? Taking shelter of that person whom you trust. Right? Taking shelter of that person in whom you have faith. Taking shelter of that person whom you know will not cheat you. Right? Then surrender is possible. So surrender is based on gratitude. And why there is a gratitude? Because there is a sense of understanding that I have received so much unconditionally from the Supreme Lord and the representative of the Supreme Lord. So I am ready to also give myself 100% back. Fine. So that faith and trust will develop by because of two things. One is knowledge of scriptures, and second thing is positive experiences in one's life. That faith will develop. One, we have knowledge coming from scriptures, and second, we have positive experiences. So that will help that faith develop more and more and more and more, and then one would be eager to, or one would be ready to surrender more and more. Right? So this process of surrender is beautifully explained in this verse of Bhagavad Gita, which we all know. It's a very common verse of Bhagavad Gita, 4.34. Tad viddhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadikshyanti te jnanam jnaninas-tattva-darshinaha. Krishna is telling Arjuna, just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. Not that they know the truth, they have seen the truth. Seen the truth means that they have experienced the truth. Right? There's a difference between knowing something and experiencing something. Right? So seeing the truth here means they've experienced the truth. So because they've experienced the truth, they can exactly tell you what the truth is or how the truth is. So this is the process of surrender defined in Bhagavad Gita by Lord Krishna, telling Arjuna that you should go to a spiritual master and inquire from that person. Now if you look at this verse closely, it has three aspects to it. Three fundamental points are there, which are very essential for us to know. What are those three fundamental points? First is pranipatena, second is pariprashnena, and third is sevaya. To make it simple for us to understand, I have put the three words: approach, inquire, execute. Three things: approach, inquire, execute. Fine? Okay. Pranipatena. Pranipatena basically means you approach, but not in a challenging manner, but in a very, very humble manner, submissive manner. Pranipatena. That is the reason when we approach Guru, we first of all do pranams, naman, right? Pranam basically means that I am accepting myself as your student and accepting you as my Guru. I am bowing down in front of you. Bowing down the head or bowing down the body literally means that I am bowing down my ego in front of you. Correct? I'm letting my ego come down in front of you. That's what pranam means. So I'm doing that. I'm accepting the role of a student. And once I've done that, then the next thing is I should inquire, pariprashnena. Ask questions. Inquiry has to be done, right? And then after I've made inquiries, what will come? Reply will come on those inquiries. So then you execute those instructions. That is called seva. Executing those instructions is called seva. That is the meaning of seva. Sometimes we think seva means what I want to give is seva. What I want to give may not be the thing that is needed. So seva means basically we ask, what can I do for you? And then if that person says do this, then that becomes seva. So these three things have to be done. And then we don't stop at seva. Do we stop at seva? No. This is a cycle which goes on and on and on and on. You approach, inquire, execute, and then you approach again, you inquire more, execute more, you approach again, inquire, execute more. So it's like a cycle which goes on and on and on in the life of a student or a disciple. Approach, inquire, execute. Approach, inquire, execute. So by this process, what happens is, slowly then the student or the disciple makes spiritual progress, grows spiritually, by the faithful execution of this process of surrender. Sharnagati, as 𝗍𝗫cie said, is the best word for surrender. This Sharnagati doesn't happen in one day or overnight. Actually, it's a process, it's an ongoing process. So when I initially come across a guru, or I come across a bona fide process of spiritual life, I may be surrendered, but my surrender may be very tiny. And if I genuinely follow the instructions, then my surrender begins to grow, increases, right? Sometimes what happens is, we become very alarmed that so much is expected from me, I cannot be so surrendered. Don't worry, if you cannot be so surrendered, then start from a very small amount of surrender, that's okay. Right? Start from where you are comfortable. And then when you follow the process, because the process will give us some very positive experiences, then our desire to surrender more and more will naturally come. Because then we'll have, positive experiences that, when I surrendered, I was fearing something wrong, but actually I got such nice results. So I should surrender more now, right? So that faith develops more and more and more. But then that is possible only if one genuinely follows these 3 steps. These are very important. You can take one of these steps out and the whole process will become incomplete. So it's very important that one executes these 3 things. Pranipatena, approach, inquire, and then execute. Very, very essential. So when we have executed instructions of a certain level, then only the higher level of instructions will be given. Otherwise not, So if people, they get stuck at a particular level of spirituality, it means that they have not yet successfully executed certain level of instructions. So they are not getting higher level of instructions. They are not being allowed to enter into a higher stage of spirituality. So one should execute them and then go to the next one that will be given, that will be provided, right? And these 3, all 3 are essential. Sometimes, like I'll give an example. Once one person came to Srila Prabhupada and he was asking questions to Srila Prabhupada. So then he was talking about Buddhism, he was talking about that process, then another process, so many questions. Such a long conversation happened. And then Prabhupada later on said, only asking. Will you do something? Will you do something about it? We are only asking questions. Will you follow any of these paths? Will you follow either Lord Buddha, or will you follow this person, or will you follow that person, or will you follow me? Will you not follow anyone? You are just asking questions. So useless, waste of time. Right? Waste of time. So that won't help. Like, I am only inquiring or asking questions. The next thing is that after I have inquired, I need to execute, practice, seva, do something, right? Tangible. Then that process will work in my life. It will show some result. It will give me some benefit. This is very essential. A major reason why at the present time there's so much of spiritual content available on social media, but still we don't see that the lives of people are that much getting impacted, is because people acquire a lot of information, but people don't really put that into practice in life. They don't execute. They only acquire information, Heard a nice lecture, gave it a thumbs up and said, very good, finish. And if possible, share it with 10 people. That's all. But then nothing beyond that. Nothing that, okay, let me try to follow what is being told here. So then there is no change, there is no transformation. There is no benefit, actually. So these 3 things have to be properly done. Approach, inquire, execute, right? And we can follow this process even with our study of scriptures. When we study the scriptures, you approach the scriptures in a humble mood, You inquire from the scriptures, and when the scriptures give you some instruction through inspiration, then execute those instructions. The next time when you read the scripture, the same book will give you higher level of instructions, higher level of realizations, higher level of knowledge, So that will be a new experience. So these three phases are explained in this verse, very essential. Okay, let's go to the next one. So people may also question or may say that surrender should be to God, and why surrender has to be there to a person or guru. Why should I have to become so sold out to an ordinary human being? Or if, let's say, not ordinary, to an extraordinary human being. So scriptures say that guru is the door to God. Srila Prabhupada writes in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.32 purport. Someone can read this, please.
The Lord can be realized through the oral reception of the transcendental message, and that is the only way to experience the transcendental subject. As fire is kindled from wood by another fire, the divine consciousness of man can similarly be kindled by another divine grace. Is divine grace the spiritual master can kindle the spiritual fire from the wood-like living entity by imparting proper spiritual messages injected through the receptive ear. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.32.
Yeah. So you see, this is something very simple to understand. You want to, wood has fire inside it, right? Right? Isn't it? Wood has fire inside it, correct? But the fire is sleeping. It's not alive now. But fire is there inside. If there is no fire in wood, wood cannot burn. When we say there is fire in wood, what we mean to say is there is fire element in the wood. If there is no fire element in the wood, the wood will not burn, right? But though the fire element is present, still the wood is not burning by itself. Only when it comes in contact with fire from outside, from an external energy, then the fire inside is kindled and then it starts burning. Likewise, people, generally they say, you see, Krishna is my father. He created me. So it's natural for me to love Krishna because I am Krishna's son, I am Krishna's child. Now, why do I need a third-party agent to help me love Krishna? When they talk about third-party agent, they're talking about guru. Why do I need someone, to be in between me and God? Right? We have direct relationship. It's there. So why we need this third party? So this example explains you need that third party just to kindle that spirit of devotion. I have love for Krishna. Devotion is there in my heart. It is only sleeping. Caitanya Caritamrita says that devotion to God or love for God is not something which has to be borrowed from outside. It is already there inside. It's just sleeping. It's not awake yet. And in order to make it awake, you need to take help of someone who already has it. So when you come in contact with that energy, that loving energy of that person, then it awakens in my heart. Just like when a wood comes in contact with fire, it catches fire. But fire is inside. Likewise, when a normal person who is not a devotee comes in contact with a devotee, then devotion in the heart takes birth. It arises. And how it does? Here it is explained. By hearing from such people, when the sound enters our ear, then it creates those feelings within our heart. It creates those kinds of feelings within our heart. This is a big science. Let me tell you something very interesting. When people talk, the voice that is generated, it can be generated from different places in the body. Okay. So generally, when ordinary people speak, the voice is generated here in your vocal cords, and the voice is coming out from the throat, and that's what we hear, right? When general people talk, the voice is generated here. And it is said that the voice which is generated here from this place, this organ, it cannot It cannot spiritually stimulate anyone. It only can create some pleasant sensations for the eardrum, that's all. That's all. But it cannot really reawaken the spirit of devotion or spirituality in someone's heart. That voice doesn't have that capacity. Those sound vibrations don't have that capacity. So then which kind of sound vibrations have the capacity? So then that there's another kind of voice which is generated not from here, but which is generated from, we have so many different chakras in our body, right? So many different chakras in our body. So that voice which is generated from the Mooladhara chakra, that voice coming from deep core existence of the person, that voice when enters the ears of people, it creates a spiritual revolution in their lives. It awakens them to spirituality. And that voice is only with those who are themselves very pure. Spiritually, only they can speak in that voice. Others cannot. So here when it is said, when you hear the words coming from the mouth of a spiritual master who's awakened to Krishna consciousness, then those messages, when they enter our ear, then it creates those feelings in us, those spiritual feelings, and we begin to then appreciate the process of Krishna consciousness or bhakti, right? So that's why Guru becomes the door to God, the medium to reach God, to understand God, to serve God, right? So that's why scripture says surrender to God begins with surrender to Guru, spiritual master. You become obedient to Guru, that is same as being obedient to God. Because that person is taking you to God, so you become obedient to him, and that will be considered same as obedience to God, right? So this is how we understand the science, and on that basis we come to this conclusion. Now, how do I know as a practitioner if I am surrendered or not? If I have surrendered to my spiritual master, or I have surrendered to Krishna, am I a surrendered devotee or not? How do I know? So Lord Krishna very beautifully explains that again in Bhagavad Gita. In 4.34 he talks about the process of surrender, and in 4.35 he gives you the result of surrender. Very scientific. So 4.34 he says, okay, you do this to surrender. And 4.35 he says, if you are surrendered, then this is what you are going to get. So what is the result of surrender? Someone can read this, please.
The screen is not shared, bro.
Yeah, Neha Mati.
Prabhuji, your screen is not visible.
Screen is not visible. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, please read.
Guru is the... Sorry, Hare Krishna.
Yeah, this one?
It is visible now, Prabhuji.
Okay, read please.
How do I know if I am surrendered? Having obtained real knowledge from a self-realized soul, you will never fall again into such illusion. For by this knowledge, you will see that all living beings are but part of the Supreme. Or in other words, that they are mine. Bhagavad Gita 4.35.
So here Lord Krishna says to Arjuna, if you are surrendered, then what will happen? Your perception of everything around you will change. For a person who is surrendered to God, that person is able to see everything in connection with God. Every single thing. Enemies, friends, good things, bad things. Everything that person is able to see in connection with God. Means everything in the world will remind that person about God because of that surrender. So Krishna is saying, if you are surrendered, this will be your experience. Means the way that person talks, the way that person walks, the way that person sees, the way that person behaves, the way that person thinks will not be the same as before. That person will be a totally different person. And everything in life will be very exciting, interesting, inspiring, Everything will be a reason to be happy, to celebrate. That will be the state of existence of such a person, one who is surrendered. Because one will be able to see Krishna everywhere, in all situations. One will be able to see God in everything. Every single thing, even the smallest thing. Let's say there's a pen kept on the table, even in that pen, one will be able to see Krishna and Krishna's energy. And one will deal with people, one will deal with things with that consciousness. So then for that person, life will be really, really beautiful. And everything in life will be really, really beautiful. Because everything will be seen in connection with God, right? So for that person, then the world will become a beautiful place. People will become beautiful people. Things will be all beautiful. Everything will be nice because everything will be seen in connection with God. So that is the symptom of a surrendered soul. And no more illusion, which means that person will not have confusions, dilemmas, what I should be doing, what is my duty, nothing like that. That is how you identify a surrendered soul. Surrender to Guru and surrender to Krishna. So something which is very interesting and exciting, that the result we are talking of someone who follows the process of surrender. This will be that person's experience, not like the experience that generally we have, which is like, okay, some little bit of happiness, little bit of sadness, you mix it together, and that's what we call as life, right? Correct. But that's not how that person will experience life as. Whereas that person will experience life as, every day, every moment, it's an opportunity to interact with God. It's an opportunity to do something for Krishna. It's an opportunity to receive a reciprocation from Krishna. Very, very fulfilling life would be. So Krishna says that's how a surrendered soul is identified. But how do we come to that stage? By following the process of surrender. Start with, we can start. 3 things. We approach, we inquire, we execute. And the more we turn the wheels around of that process, the more we come closer to this kind of experience which Krishna is talking about in verse 4.35. One will be able to see everyone in relationship with the Supreme Lord, that they are mine, right? Now, once when I was studying Bhakti Shastri in Vrindavan Institute for Higher Education, our teacher gave us an exercise, and it was very nice exercise, amazing exercise. He told us, we were around 30 people sitting in the room, and he told us, no, I can't give you this exercise because you are all sitting in your room, maybe you're all alone, right? So you don't have people around you, but still you can move your eyes, around all over the screen and look at different people's faces. That can be done. So our teacher told us this activity he gave us. He said, look at every single person you see in this room. Look at them closely. Look at their face, look into their eyes, look at them closely, consciously, and tell yourself, this person, this particular body that I see, whether it's a man's body, it's a woman's body, it's white, it's black, short, tall, ugly, beautiful, whatever, every single body that I see here and every single person I see here, he said, you look at that person as if that body is a temple of God, and every person you see there as a child of God. You try to do that. And we did that, we just followed that instruction honestly. And then after a few minutes, he asked us, you see, all of you are smiling. All of you are smiling. So he said, what makes you so happy? He said, just this vision, that every single body I see is a temple of God, and every single person I see is a child of God. Just this vision makes you happy. Just this vision makes you happy. So he said, if we artificially try to do it, we become happy. Then someone who is actually doing it, how much happy that person would be, right? How much joyful that person would be. So this is explained by Lord Krishna here, that surrender brings one to that state of consciousness. That's what surrender does. So this is what is the goal of religion. That's why this is also taught by Sri Ramanujacharya. Ramanujacharya, the Sampradaya Acharya of Sri Sampradaya. If you study his books or his teachings, this is what he concludes everywhere. Prapannam, also known as Prapatti, which literally means total surrender to God. For Sri Sampradaya Vaishnavas, the topmost verse is Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. 18.66 of Bhagavad Gita. That is the topmost for them, because it talks about surrender to God. So this interesting story is also given in the book, that once Sri Ramanujacharya was sitting and doing some of his writing work, and his disciples came to him and said, my dear spiritual master, you have written so many books. I mean, in this one life, we cannot study them all. So the spiritual master Ramanujacharya said, what's wrong with that then? You just study what you can study. And they said, but if you don't study all, how will we conclude? What is your conclusion? We have to study all the books, then we can conclude what is your conclusion, right? Then we can understand what you want to teach us. We need to study all the books. So Ramanujacharya said, in all the books that I have written, with these thousands of pages, so many shlokas, examples, instructions, I can compress all of that in just one word. And that one word is prapatti, surrender. Just one word. I can compress all that instruction and information in one word. And I said, if you understand this one word, you have understood all my books. You have understood all my books. It's all there just in one word. So this one word, surrender, defines everything. It's the last word in religion. And this is what this surrender to God begins with, as we understand, surrender to Guru. Starts there and then it ends with surrender to God, right? So the Guru helps us to do that. And as we develop more and more faith and trust in the Guru, spiritual master, by having good experiences, positive experiences, then the desire to surrender more and more also increases, right? But it is not something which has to be shown off. It's not something which is external. It is something which can be only known to you. Maybe people will not be able to identify whether you are surrendered or not so much, because it's an affair of heart. It is something inside the heart. How much am I giving in fully? How much am I stopping myself, to give in fully? So this can be only known to a person individually, and that will depend on that person's individual experiences. And how much do I want to surrender? 100%, 90%, 80%, 5%, 2%, 1%, right? So that one has to judge for oneself how much one is giving in, right? Based on one's experiences, and grow in that, slowly, evolve in that, by developing knowledge and having good experiences. All right, so this is explained about the process of surrender. There's a lot more given in that chapter. I did not cover all the points. I'm sure you would be reading that chapter, or you have already read that chapter. So now, any questions or thoughts on this, whatever we discussed till now? Yes, Ashok Prabhuji. You have to unmute yourself, please.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, I could not attend last session. I had explained you the reason, and you had kindly permitted me to do that. So I was going through that session. Two things came to my mind. If you allow me, I can ask.
Yeah, please.
Prabhuji, one is, I want to share our experience regarding what you had shared, that while going up the hill to that cave, there were marks, there were direction. While coming back, there were no marks. Prabhuji, we experienced exactly the same thing in 2014 when we had gone to Badri and then we went to Bhavishya Badri. So while going to Bhavishya Badri, there were marks, although we had to search for those marks, where those marks are. But while coming back, there were no marks. Now the question may come that when for going the marks were there, how can we not follow the same marks while coming down? After hearing your experience, I just realized that while coming back, our back is towards those marks. So we can't see them. We generally, miss those marks. That is why same thing happened with us. Few of them came through different paths. Few of them came through different paths. Finally, we reached. But Prabhuji, thanks for sharing that experience and opening myself to that realization. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Prabhu, second is a question. You talked about 𝗕𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐃. 𝗕𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐃.
Which you mentioned? What did you mention?
Radha Kund.
No,
There
no.
are
Radha Kund is different, Prabhuji. Radha Kund is in Govardhan, and Kishori Kund is in Yavat.
Yavat.
Yeah. Yavat is the place of, basically this is, Yavat is Radharani's Sasural, her in-laws place.
Okay.
So there, when you go to Yavat, you get to know the story of Jatila and Kutila and Abhimanyu, the so-called husband of Srimati Radharani, right? So that interesting place, in that interesting place, you find this kund called Kishori Kund. It's not so well known, not all devotees go there, but those who know, they go there. Very beautiful kund actually. It's one of the most clean kundas you will find in the whole of Vrindavan, quite clean, because people don't go there, it's clean. When people start going there, they'll make it dirty, right? So it's clean, very clean, and this special pastime happened there that Kans, when he came and took a bath there, he became a gopi. So, very interesting pastime. So they said that if you make a wish, that wish gets fulfilled. Okay. Fine.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Neha Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, my first question is, do these three phases of Pranipatena, Pariprashnena and Sevaya, do these three phases take place in secret between the Guru disciple, or can we see them?
Secret means it happens invisibly, you are saying?
Yes, Prabhuji, can...
No, you see, pranipata basically means when you approach, you do pranams, you offer obeisances. So that need not be something secret. That can be happening in front of others also. Second is inquiry, pariprashnena. That is also not necessarily has to be done secretly. It can also be done in front of others, right? And then it's execution. That also you don't have to do secretly. You can execute in front of others also. Not necessary that it has to have some kind of secrecy. No, not necessarily. Not nothing like that.
Okay. My second question is, Sevaya, if it breaks due to illness, what to do?
Okay. If Seva is not happening due to sickness, then one can do some other Seva. See, one is not able to do a particular kind of service due to some situation, then one can do some other kind of service. There is no dearth to the kind of services that can be done to Krishna, right? So, let's say if a person is bedridden, now if you are bedridden, you cannot do certain kind of activities. But then you can do some other things while lying in the bed itself, isn't it? Correct? Or by resting in the bed itself.
And we do japa during when we are...
Yes, that is also seva, no? Chanting holy names is also one kind of seva only. Because seva here means that you execute the instruction. So chanting the holy name is also one instruction. Chant the holy name. That is instruction. I follow that instruction. I'm doing seva. Right? Seva doesn't only mean that it has to be some different kind of physical activity. Seva basically means I have been told to do something, I do that. It's seva. Right? So if I am chanting holy names of Krishna, that is seva. I am reading Bhagavad Gita, that is seva. I am telling people you should also chant Hare Krishna, that is also seva. The mood of seva has to be taken up. If that mood is taken up, then even the smallest thing that I do can be turned into seva. And if that mood is not taken up, then even if I do a big project, it will not be considered as seva. The main thing is the mood, bhav. What is my bhav? So if my bhav is that I want to please the Lord by this activity that I am doing, that is seva. It can be a small thing also, a very, very small thing also, right? But if the bhav is not so, then it's not seva. It's just the mood that defines. So in any situation, even if we are sick, we can do something. Santosh Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Pranam Prabhuji. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for the wonderful sessions. Prabhuji, the question is like, as you was telling that, Tadviti Pranipatena Pariprashtena, like we should approach, inquire, and execute. Like, but in the current situation, like before coming to completing IDC course, like I was like, it should be we should inquire, because Prabhupada mentions most of the time like inquire the spiritual master, and in the IDC document also mentions that we should be at least 1 year with the spiritual master, and where spiritual master sees the disciple, yes, I can accept him as a disciple, and disciple sees also, yes, I can surrender to this spiritual master. But currently we can't approach because most of the spiritual masters are very busy in serving his spiritual master service. And how can we approach, and how can we inquire, and how can we execute those their instructions? Now, like we have instructions, general instruction, like we can execute them, but how the approach and inquire things can happen?
Depends now. Not that all are in this situation, they cannot give time. It depends on whom you have accepted as your spiritual master. If that particular personality has thousands of followers and disciples, then it's not practically possible to give out time to every single disciple and personally answer all their questions, right? In that situation, then we accept a representative of that spiritual master and then do the process of inquiry and seva through that person whom the spiritual master has made his or her representative, right? So then we follow the parampara system. Okay, I'm servant of this servant of this servant of spiritual master. So then you follow that, but you have to follow that everywhere, whether you're following it with your guru directly or you're following it with a representative of your guru. That process has to be followed. I inquire, I serve, I execute, I approach. That has to be done. So one can do it either with Diksha Guru, one can do it with Siksha Guru. Either way.
Sure, thank you. But Prabhuji, which means that like even I have heard like we should understand the mood of the spiritual master, which means we can get to know that mood from the disciple of that particular spiritual master.
Yes, you can get to know the mood of the spiritual master by even serving a genuine other genuine disciple of that spiritual master. It is possible.
Sure. Thank you.
It's possible. Why is it not possible? We see that happening. I mean, Srila Prabhupada, when he left the planet, so many of Srila Prabhupada's disciples, they took shelter of their own godbrothers,
yes,
senior godbrothers, because their senior godbrothers had learned personally from Prabhupada. So then they, considering them as elder brothers, they tried to understand how was Srila Prabhupada, in what way he took decisions, what he considered right and wrong, by discussing with the elder godbrothers. So that's not fine. As long as we have a community of devotees or a society of devotees who are genuine followers, then we can take help from any one of them. Isn't it? Because all are connected. So one may not have to always directly approach the Guru only. One can go through this way also. Yes, Neha Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I have one last question. Can we ask material or personal questions to Guru, like counsel? Can we consider the Guru as our counselor also?
We can ask. There is no problem in asking. But then we may ask, and the Guru, now when we are talking about Guru here, it can mean Diksha Guru also, it can mean Siksha Guru. That person has then the freedom to either answer or not answer. Because the scriptures say, as such, one should ask only about spiritual things. Right? That's what the scriptures say. But then let's say the Guru is very, very accommodating. Chalo, I will help you in this matter also. That is not extra help, something which he is not supposed to do, but he is extending himself. You're getting it? Right? So when someone is extending himself or herself, we cannot demand that. We can only request for that. Right? Now, when it comes to spiritual questions, then if one says that I am asking spiritual question and my Guru is saying I won't answer, then that Guru is not doing his duty, because that's what the relationship is about, that you ask spiritual questions and this person is supposed to give answers. Correct? But when it comes to about material problems, then that person is not bound to give answers, because the scriptures will not, hold that person accountable for it. However, that person may be very compassionate in nature and may extend, ki chalo, I'll help you with this problem also. Right? Possible. So then the Guru may help, may do that for us. So we should gratefully then accept that help. But at the same time, we should not expect that always, because sometimes if that help is not given, then we may take it otherwise. Isn't it? Then that relationship may not remain sweet again. So that's why one should not depend for it always. It is said, it is recommended, one should not depend for it always. Rather, one should then try to take help from some other people, someone else, rather than the spiritual master. Okay.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay, if no other question or comment, we'll stop here. See you next. Okay, Hanit Mataji has something to say.
Prabhuji, you've given us the cycle, how we do the entire surrender process. But it's very difficult, Prabhuji. I mean, is time and practice the only way, or is there anything else that we can do? How do we actually surrender?
There is no shortcut to it. There's no shortcut to it. And we can definitely make the process fast by intense prayers to Krishna. Right? By prayers, we can always change the course of action. It's possible. So when we pray to the Lord, if we pray seriously for it, then Krishna will help. But then Krishna will not always help in the way we expect it. No? So we have to be ready for it also. The thing is that if we tell Krishna, I really want to surrender, then Krishna may put us in a situation where then we'll say, Krishna, no, not that fast, not that soon, right? I still have so many desires that I want to fulfill. So please don't put me in that situation now, isn't it? So we have to look into our heart and then honestly check how fast we want to make it for ourselves. If you are done with everything in this world, then you can tell Krishna, okay, tomorrow I want to be 100% surrendered. Isn't it? But if you're not done with everything in this world, then Krishna will let you do that and then come to him fully. Krishna will do that.
Understood. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Annapurna Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I just want to make a comment. Many years, I think 5 to 6 years before, I came across a saintly person, and the saintly person asked me to surrender. So at that point in time, I did not understand the meaning of the word surrender. So, and when I was reading the chapter, like everything flashed in my mind. Okay, this was the meaning which the saintly person asked me. I was not ready at that point of time because I did not know the process. Neither I inquired from him the process what it is. So thank you, Prabhuji. I understood what it is, and maybe one day I will be ready to surrender as per what is being said.
All right, thank you. Wish you all the best. We all will be very happy if you do that. So that's what Krishna is telling everyone through Bhagavad Gita, surrender to me. Right? That's a message of Krishna to all. Fine, we'll stop here. Thank you so much. See you next week again with the second chapter. If possible, read and come with that chapter. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.